So just before we get to design, there's one more thing. In order to give chance another chance, sometimes people bring up opportunities to increase the opportunities for this result to occur. The multiverse is one of these such theories. So we're going to take a minute to investigate the multiverse. Just because people use this as a last chance to avoid the design hypothesis doesn't necessarily mean it's false. Again, intentions don't mean a theory is false. So we're going to be fair and investigate the evidence for it. So what is the multiverse? And why would people posit that this could be a possibility? Well, if there are an infinite amount of universes, then at least one is bound to look like ours. That's reasonable. If a different universe is being made all the time, different constants, quantities, and qualities, then one is bound to look like ours. The multiverse theory is basically a theory that there is a mechanism that keeps producing universes with different constants, quantities, and qualities. Like bubbles in a pot, universes keep coming to existence endlessly. Just another one keeps popping into existence all the time. It's only a matter of time before a life-permitting universe like ours is formed. Now that's plausible, isn't it? That this could happen, that this could result in a universe like ours, right? Okay, it's plausible. What's the evidence for it? Now, there are actually lots of problems with this theory. And the first is that there's just no evidence. There's no evidence of other universes or of the mechanism which creates them. So we need to understand that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but there's definitely not much for this theory to depend upon. It's not sitting on much. So to hold it up as, oh, this is a theory that removes the design hypothesis. No, not so much. You can use it as a theory, but it doesn't sit on much. So that's the first problem. It just has no evidence. Second, the multiverse itself would require fine-tuning, as a mechanism would be needed to create universes. Again, something that keeps on tampering with different quantities, qualities, and conditions sounds a lot like a machine, doesn't it? A machine requires fine-tuning. So this itself does not remove the explanation for where did fine-tuning come from? No, it just pushes it back a step. This machine type thing is making universes. What about the fine-tuning for this machine? What can explain that? Third, who runs this operation? Again, this is an orderly operation. How did it come to be this way? Who's in charge? What's going on up there? Next, if the mechanism were timeless, our universe would be timeless as well, as it would have been created an infinite amount of time ago. Now, this is a philosophical argument, meaning it's definitely one of my favorite ones because I love philosophy. So just bear with me for a minute. If you understood an argument from the last episode, then you'll get this one if you just stick with me. So the mechanism would have been created from all eternity, an infinite amount of time ago. Now, this is the point that's the most important for you to get. So if the multiverse, the mechanism that creates all the universes, is eternal, which it would have to be, then it's been creating for all eternity, an infinite amount of time ago. If that's the case, then our universe would also have been created an infinite amount of time ago. If that's the case, then there's an infinite amount of moments before now. And as we saw in the last time, there cannot be an infinite amount of past events. Otherwise, this moment will never get here. I'm just going to explain that briefly, in case you guys don't remember. Imagine a Marvel movie. There are post-credit scenes, scenes that come after the credits. Now, if the credits never end, there's just an infinite amount of names that never ends. Another name keeps popping up before the post-credit scene, then that will never end, resulting in the post-credit scene will never begin. For the post-credit to begin, the credits have to end. It's the same with past moments. In order for this moment to begin, the past moments must end. If there's an infinite amount of past moments before now, this moment could never begin. Yet we're here, therefore, the amount of past events cannot be infinite, but must be finite in number. So that's another problem. The universe itself cannot be eternal because we would have been created an infinite amount of time ago, yet we weren't. Now, there are a couple more problems I'm going to explain. So again, there's another reason to believe that the mechanism needs a beginning. The Borde-Guth Vilenkin theorem confirms this. And we already saw from the last time that whatever begins to exist, needs a cause. So this really just pushes it back a step once again. It still needs a cause if it did have a beginning. So next, Dr. William Lane Craig said, we'd expect small regions of order with no more than a single intelligent observer. Instead, in our world, it's overflowing with order, and it's teeming with intelligent observers, contrary to what we'd expect. Next, the mathematical concept of infinity in the multiverse is faulty. Imagine this. In the multiverse, only a small amount, say 0.0000001%, a small amount, of the universes have life. Makes sense, right? The question is, how many universes is that? An infinite amount. Why? Because a fraction of an infinite is an infinite. Now, of those universes, let's say that only 0.0000001%, small amount, have human beings. How many universes is that? An infinite amount, because a fraction of an infinite is an infinite. Of those universes, 0.00001% have you. What amount of universes is that? An infinite amount. Of those universes, only 0.0000001% have you on this Zoom. How many universes is that? An infinite amount. And lastly, of those universes, let's say an even smaller amount, 0.00000000000000001% have everything else exactly the same as it is in this universe. How many universes is that? An infinite amount, because a fraction of an infinite is an infinite. And here's the problem. Therefore, there are an infinite amount of universes, which is equivalent to the totality of the multiverse, which are exactly like ours, with no difference that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to say that again. So there's an infinite amount of universes. That's equivalent to the whole of the multiverse, which are exactly like ours. That doesn't make any sense. Now, the only objection someone could make to that point is that, there actually aren't an infinite amount of that kind of universe. And the question is there, okay, how many are there? 76? 1? How do you know? So this takes us back to the first point. There's just no evidence. So on one side, you have the extreme faulty reasoning of the multiverse. On the other, you just have no evidence to stand on. So whichever position you take, there's faulty reasoning. So this is really the next point. Well, it's kind of connected. You cannot have an actual infinite amount of individual parts. This is really important. I didn't understand it for a long time. You cannot have an actual infinite amount of individual parts. So let's just imagine I have an infinite amount of marbles. What happens when I take out one marble? How many am I left with? An infinite amount. What happens when you take away half? How many am I left with? An infinite amount. So there's no difference. And that is really the big issue. See, if you take an infinite amount, you subtract something, and there's no difference. Bad, faulty reasoning, mathematically. If you take an infinite amount, you subtract 1, and you say, oh, there are 57 left. How'd you get that? Then it's not an infinite amount. So you see, either way, you're left with faulty mathematical reasoning. So no matter what view in the multiverse someone takes, there's always faulty reasoning. And it gets even weirder. I'm going to give you one more point. Then I'm going to shush about the multiverse. But I'm going to give you one more point. It does get weirder. If all the universes reflect all possibilities, then there's a universe where Abraham Lincoln is still alive. Or there's a universe where people put salsa in their coffee rather than creamer. Don't want to be there. I like salsa, but not that much. Or there's a universe in which Pokemon are the dominant species. Or there's a universe where God does actually exist. Maybe this is just that universe. You should become a Christian. God exists in this universe. So you see, it becomes nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. So not only is there no evidence for the multiverse, but there's so many issues, not just scientific, but just logical. So this theory really just falls apart. And I'm not the only one who shows this. Physicist Paul Davies said, prominent scientists and commentators have used words such as fantasy, virus, and intellectually bankrupt on their denunciations. For those theoretical physicists hard at work trying to formulate a unique final theory, the multiverse comes across as a cheap way out. Randomness plus observer selection strikes any physicist as an ugly and impoverished explanation compared with an overarching mathematical theory that pins down the properties of the world with a quantitative precision and interweaves them into harmonious unity.